Hi there. If you're here, you've probably heard about Japanese knotweed, or is it Canadian bamboo, Chinese rhubarb? Well, it's a herbaceous perennial that looks an awful lot like bamboo. Yeah, confusion's understandable. This plant has been in use with horticulture, and in horticulture, everybody has a different name for everything. However, just to be clear on this channel, it is formerly known as Fallopia japonica, and it has quite a colored history. Japanese knotweed originates from Japan, where it acts as a primary colonizer of volcanic slopes, meaning it's the first plant in following a disturbance that wipes out a plant community. And in this native setting, it helps stabilize soil and attract other plants to the area so that an ecosystem can reestablish. Giant Japanese knotweed were first introduced to Europe by P.F. von Siebold, who sold it as a nursery plant in the Netherlands. Early spring growth was suggested for animal feed, and it was also recommended as a soil stabilizer. We'll come back to this part, as you might know that it doesn't really do this outside of Japan. Focusing specifically on Nova Scotia, where this research is being done, researchers have found that knotweed has been present for at least 100 years, according to herbarium records, where it can be found on roadsides, coastlines, riparian zones, near houses, and, in your case, probably your yard. We now know that knotweed is not a desirable horticultural plant. It is an invasive species. It can negatively affect property value, the ecosystems it's present in, and it is incredibly difficult to remove once it's well established. How it does those things is a topic for a future video. If we want to begin addressing this plant, we should at least try to understand how it works. In Nova Scotia, knotweed emerges mid-April to May, reaching a peak height of 300 centimeters around the middle of June, flowering in August, setting seed in September, and senescing in October following a frost. Studies have found that it transfers most energy back down to the rhizomes around the fall, from August through September. This might make this time period an ideal window for control, however, studies are still in progress. I'll let you know how they go. This shows knotweed has a similar growth pattern to plants like goldenrod, canary wheatgrass, and hosta, which is a good horticultural plant. Like knotweed, these plants reproduce through rhizomes, which are just underground stems that store a lot of energy and that can produce new plants. However, knotweed rhizomes are a little different. Number one, they're huge, and they are also incredibly widespread. Studies estimated that some of these rhizomes can go down as far as 2 meters deep and can spread out 7 meters from the original infestation just by growing those rhizomes. This has led to it becoming a very dominant species in riparian zones, and because of this, it's a big problem. Because those rhizomes usually penetrate so deep, there's usually enough of it left behind in the event of a flood or attempted excavation that any other plants that you might plant there to try to compete with it, establishing anything basically from seed, it won't stand a chance, because anything reestablishing from rhizomes is going to grow back considerably faster because it has a big energy advantage. Now, going back to our old point, you might be wondering why knotweed destroys ecosystems in North America and Europe, whereas in Japan it helps serve as a foundation for building them. This is probably because knotweed doesn't really have enemies in Europe and North America that would effectively keep it under control and allow other plants to succeed it. Usually, primary colonizers are at least the target of some kind of animals or insects via herbivory. However, herbivores like deer in Nova Scotia don't seem to take much interest in it, and I do have a theory as to why. This is probably because knotweed has a very short window from which it's edible. So I know people on this page like to go and eat knotweed and make stuff with it, make the best of a bad situation as what you will, but you would also realize that it's only really edible kind of when the shoots first emerge, kind of when they start to reach 25 centimeters in height or so. That's probably why deer don't take much of an interest in it later in the growing season, which seems like it's going to be ideal for control. I have noticed aphids on it, but they don't seem to have much of an effect. In other studies, doesn't have much of an effect on it either. There is one insect being considered for biological control in Canada called the knotweed psyllid. However, it's just still in progress. Trials are in progress in Europe. However, we're going to wait and see kind of what happens with that one. So I hope this video helped you understand Japanese knotweed a little bit better and why it can be such a problem. In the next video, we'll discuss how Japanese knotweed causes damage to ecosystems, property, and infrastructure. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.